If you walked into a gun shop 10 years ago and told the guy behind the counter that Revolvers would be making a comeback, he'd probably laugh so hard he'd drop his coffee. And yet, here we are. Would you believe me if I told you one of the hottest selling guns right now isn't some high-tech polymer-framed Glock or tricked-out AR-15? Nope, it's the good old-fashioned wheel gun. Revolvers, baby. And they're flying off the shelves faster than my kid can rack up DoorDash charges on my card. Now, this ain't just nostalgia kicking in. We're talking real numbers. According to the National Shooting Sports Foundation, revolver sales have jumped 20% in just 2 years. And Smith & Wesson, they saw a 35% increase in 2022 alone. That's not a fluke, that's a full-blown shift. But why? Why are Americans suddenly buying these things like they're the last box of ammo on the shelf? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because revolvers just work. They're simple, they're reliable, and in a world where everything feels like it's getting more complicated, a firearm that doesn't require an engineering degree to use is pretty appealing. You load the cylinder, you pull the trigger, it fires every single time. No stovepipes, no failure to feed. No wondering if your magazine's spring gonna let you down at the worst possible moment. If you need a gun that's gonna go bang no matter what, you can't do much better than a revolver. And let's be real, times are weird right now. People want peace of mind. They want something they can count on when things get dicey. And when you're in a high-stress situation, do you really want to be clearing a jam? Or do you want to pull the trigger and know it's gonna fire? Revolvers aren't just guns, they're legends. You ever seen a cowboy movie, a cop show, played Red Dead Redemption? You know exactly what I'm talking about. The Colt Python, the Smith & Wesson Model 29, these ain't just firearms, they're icons. And unlike your plastic fantastic Glocks, they come with history, craftsmanship, and let's be real, style. Manufacturers are seeing the demand, and they're answering back. They're taking these classic designs, slapping on modern machining and better materials, and putting out revolvers that'll outlive you, your kids, and probably the cockroaches after the apocalypse. It's like someone took a classic Mustang and threw in a twin-turbo engine. Pure beauty with modern performance. Now, I ain't gonna sit here and tell you revolvers are better than semi-autos in every way, but let's talk about why more folks are giving them another look. Reliability. Ever had a semi-auto jam on you at the worst possible time? That ain't a problem with a revolver. No magazines to misfeed, no slides to fail, no stovepipes to clear. You pull the trigger and it goes bang. That's it. And when your life's on the line, simple is good. Ease of use. You ever handed a newbie a semi-auto and watched him struggle? Where's the safety? How do I rack the slide? What's a failure to feed? Now hand him over a revolver. Load the cylinder, close it, pull the trigger, boom, done. New gun owners love them because there's no guesswork. Durability. A well-built revolver is a tank. Drop it, run it through the mud, leave it in your grandpappy's sock drawer for 50 years. It's still fire. Unlike your polymer pistols, which start feeling fragile after a decade of abuse, a good revolver is built to outlast civilizations. Resale value. Now here's where it gets interesting. You ever try selling a used semi-auto? Depreciates like a new car off the lot. But a classic Colt or Smith & Wesson? Those things can go up in value. Some of them are even investments, and in this economy, that ain't a bad idea. Self-defense capabilities. Alright, let's get one thing straight. A .357 Magnum is not playing around. You got power, range, and versatility. A lot of .357 revolvers also chamber 38 special, which gives you flexibility in recoil and ammo cost. And if you want to go even bigger, there's a 44 Magnum, 45 Colt, and 10mm. That's enough punch to put down a problem and make sure it stays down. Unlike semi-autos, where you gotta rack the slide every time you want to reset the trigger, a revolver lets you just keep pulling. Click, click, click. You can practice that trigger pull 1,000 times without ever worrying about a misfeed, a jam, or spending a fortune on dummy rounds. You don't even need one of those fancy Mantis systems, just a light switch across the room and a steady hand. And let's be real, if you can master the long, double-action pull of a revolver, switching back to a semi-auto feels like going from lifting cinder blocks to lifting a can of soda. Your trigger control gets better, your sight picture stays steady, and suddenly you're hitting targets like you actually meant to. It's like going to the gym, but instead of bench pressing, you're flexing your accuracy, and you don't even have to sweat. Alright, here's another reason folks are jumping back on the revolver train. You never know what kind of firearm you might have to pick up in a high-stress situation. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be out here snatching guns off the ground in some Wild West shootout, but real talk, if you ever find yourself in a defensive scenario, you might not have time to be picky. Maybe it's a buddy's gun, maybe it's the only thing available. Maybe you're at one of those work retreats where your boss decides a shooting range day is a great team-building exercise, and you don't want to be the one fumbling with the cylinder in front of Karen from accounting. Point is, knowing how different platforms operate is just good sense. It's like knowing how to drive both an automatic and a stick shift. One day, that knowledge might just save your life. And if you think revolvers are outdated, I got news for you. They're still everywhere. Police carry them, security guards carry them, and some of the best shooters in the world swear by them. Here's the thing. People don't just buy guns because they're practical. They buy them because they're cool, and right now, revolvers are cool again. Hollywood's showing them off, video games are making them look badass, and social media is hyping them up. Hell, even Gen Z's taking notice. You wouldn't believe how many young shooters are picking up revolvers after playing Red Dead Redemption. It's like the Wild West never left. A lot of folks think revolvers are just for old school gun nuts, but let's look at who's actually buying them. New gun owners. They love the simplicity and reliability. Women. Hammerless revolvers are a top pick for concealed carry, no snag, no fuss. Collectors. Classic revolvers from Colt and Smith & Wesson are hotter than ever in the used market. CCW holders. Snub-nosed revolvers are easy to carry, easy to shoot, and dead reliable. Home defense buyers. Some folks swear by a big, heavy revolver as the ultimate nightstand gun. Young buyers. Between video games and action movies, Gen Z is rediscovering revolvers in a big way. See, modern revolvers aren't the same six-shooters your granddad carried. Manufacturers have been tweaking, upgrading, and fine-tuning these bad boys, and now they're lighter, faster, and just as deadly as ever. So let's break down exactly why people are making the switch. What's new with revolvers? First up, weight. Old revolvers were built like tanks, great for durability, not so great for your belt. But today, we're talking polymer frames and aluminum alloys that make carrying one all day feeling less like hauling bricks. You still get that tough, battle-tested durability, but without the backache. Now let's talk about something every shooter cares about, triggers. Old school revolvers? That trigger pull could feel like cranking a rusty jack. But modern revolvers, especially those from Smith & Wesson's Performance Center and Colt Snake series, have butter-smooth triggers. No more feeling like you need a gym membership just to get a clean shot off. One of the biggest reasons folks are loving this gun? It doesn't require an instruction manual, thicker than a dictionary. You press a button, the cylinder swings out, you thumb in some rounds like you're in an old-school western, and boom, you're good to go. Close the cylinder, pull the trigger, and that's it. No messing around with safeties, slides, or tactical wizardry. If you can open a can of beans, you can load this gun. For beginners, this is a dream come true. I mean, ever handed a semi-auto to someone who's never shot before? It's like watching someone try to start a lawnmower for the first time. But a revolver? Even a total rookie can pick it up and figure it out. That's why a lot of first-time buyers are jumping on it. It's just that easy to use. And here's where it really shines. This thing is built like a tank. You don't have to worry about stovepipes, double feeds, or any of that nonsense. As long as you pull the trigger, the hammer falls, the round goes off. That's the kind of dependability you want on a firearm. It's got 3 main parts: hammer, cylinder, trigger. And as long as none of those 3 decide to up and quit, you're in business. Now don't get me wrong, user error is still a thing. You can still mess it up. Short stroking the trigger, that'll jam you up. Trying to go cowboy with it and fanning the hammer like you're in an old Clint Eastwood movie? Yeah, you might miss a shot. But the thing itself, it's rock solid. But here's where the gun really earns its paycheck. Close quarters combat. Let's be real, most self-defense situations aren't happening across a football field. They're up close, messy, and chaotic. Someone wants your wallet, your car, or just to make your day worse, and suddenly it's personal. That's where this gun shines. If you're in a tight situation, grappling, wrestling, or just caught in a bad spot, a semi-auto can jam up. The slide catches on clothes, misfeeds, and suddenly you're holding a very expensive paperweight. But a revolver? No slide to worry about. You can even fire it from inside your coat pocket if you need to. Try that with the semi-auto and see how well it works. Spoiler, it won't. And let's talk about my favorite demo of this. Y'all ever seen Paul Harrell's video where he shoots a revolver under a bedsheet? The semi-auto jams up faster than a Walmart shelf checkout, but the revolver keeps on trucking. That's real-world proof right there. Let's talk mechanics. Semi-autos, they got springs, they got slides, they got tiny little moving parts that get gunked up faster than a toddler eating spaghetti. But a revolver? Ain't none of that. You pull the trigger, cylinder rotates, and boom, it goes off. No matter what kind of gunk, lint, or belly button fuzz it's buried under. That's why these things can fire even when they've been shoved under a pillow, tangled in a jacket, or, heaven forbid, you find yourself in a close quarter scrap where things are, let's say, less than ideal. A semi-auto might misfeed, but a revolver, that thing just works. And speaking of working, let's talk ammo. Now, y'all ever gone ammo shopping during a shortage? Feels like trying to find eggs at the grocery store in 2020. One day, all you got is 38 Special, next week it's all about 357 Magnum. And the week after that, nothing but 22 LR and regret. Well, good news. If you've got a revolver, you've got options. See, a semi-auto was kind of picky. It needs the right recoil strength to cycle properly, which means if you try throwing in some extra light loads or some extra hot plus P rounds, you might get jams, short strokes, or failures to feed. A revolver doesn't care. You can mix and match ammo like a buffet, light, 38 Specials for practice, 357 Magnums when you mean business, and even plus P rounds if your gun's rated for it. That means no more sweating over what's in stock. You just grab whatever's available, and you're good to go. Now here's another kicker. In case y'all haven't noticed, some states are getting real particular about what kind of firepower you can carry. Magazine bans, feature restrictions, all that fun stuff. But revolvers? They slide right under the radar. Most of them only hold 5 to 7 rounds, which means they're compliant with even the strictest states. You ain't gonna worry about some bureaucrat telling you that your magazine's too big because you don't got one. That means if you live in a place where semi-autos are more regulated than grandma's prescription meds, a revolver might just be your best bet. The classic argument against revolvers? They don't hold enough rounds. And sure, traditional models top out at 6 shots, but new designs, we've got 7 and 8 round options now, closing the gap with semi-autos. That's more firepower without losing that famous revolver reliability. And sights? Oh man, sights. If you've ever tried hitting a target with an old iron-sighted revolver, you know the struggle. But manufacturers fix that. Now you've got fiber optics, night sights, and even red dot compatibility. Yeah, optic-ready revolvers exist. That means faster target acquisition, better accuracy, and more reasons to give these guns a second look. Alright, let's get to the big question. Why are people suddenly grabbing these over semi-autos? Simple. Reliability, ease of use, and straight-up fun. Revolvers don't jam, don't stovepipe, and don't care if you limp wrist the shot. Pull the trigger and it goes bang every single time. Plus, there's just something about a revolver. Maybe it's its weight, the feel, or the way it balances in your hand. Maybe it's the fact that every Hollywood cowboy and detective made them look cooler than a fridge full of beer. Either way, people are realizing these aren't just antiques. They're rock-solid tools built for today's shooter.